Hey, what's up? All right, so today we're going to look at a video that kind of illustrates some of the things that annoy me as an average Joe US citizen when I listen to pundits talk about politics. And this happens for sure on both sides. I'm more of a conservative person politically, but this is going to be kind of a critique on someone that I probably share a lot of views and opinions with. And so let's jump into it, and I'll kind of tell you what I mean.
View the issue when it comes to democracy is basically even, right? It's a wash. And that's despite all of the propaganda for the mainstream liberal media about Trump being a threat to democracy, that even the American people aren't stupid enough to fall for this propaganda from the media when it comes to election denialism.
What do you think he's going to board up the White House? Pull a straw dogs with Dustin Hoffman?
Well, last time he thought the other Republicans would back him up when he called that guy in Georgia and said, "I need 11,000 votes. I want you to find them."
He said find. He didn't say create. He said find.
Well, that's the same thing.
No, it's not. You don't say on an Easter egg
Find
hunt,
them that-
I want you to create some Easter eggs.
We have a show here.
All right, Dr. Drew.
Okay.
Boys. I mean, my
Settle
favorite
this.
show to
Okay, so I'm going to jump in really quick here. Yeah, I don't know. So here's the thing. I think what drives me nuts about all the talk on this, and especially I'm not like an overly informed person when it comes to anything in politics. I'm not someone who follows it really closely. So I'm just talking about general principles here. But that little interaction where Bill Maher was saying that Trump had called, this is the first time I've heard of this, so I don't know any details about this other than what we just listened to. But he said that Trump called the governor of somewhere and says, create however many votes for me so we can win. And then I don't even remember, I guess Greg Gutfeld or whatever his name is, Gutfeld. He said, find me this many votes, right? And yeah, it's not the same thing. Find me that many votes and create. But at the same time, it's really easy to understand how you could understand that both ways. If Trump said, find me this many votes, I could see how it's believable that you could think that he meant to create them or to do some type of fraud, right? Especially if you don't trust Trump, you don't agree with it, or you don't think he has strong character, whatever the case may be. I can see how it'd be easy for you to think that he means, do some type of fraud, to voting fraud. On the other hand, I also see it's equally believable that he did not mean that, and that he meant, recount the votes and everything. And so me not knowing more details about it, I definitely don't have an opinion one way or the other, but I'm just saying, like it's so funny to me how these guys, they speak so confidently on these topics. And I know sometimes it's probably because they have more information than I do, so they have more context. But sometimes it's just like, well, can't you see the other person's side? Can't you for 1 second just say, okay, I see what you mean there. I don't think that's what he meant. I think he meant this. But I can see why that kind of makes you a little suspicious, Like, I think it's understandable, at least from the context in the video. And then we're going to listen to the guy who's actually, whose channel this is, say his opinion. I have something to say on that too.
television.
Well, again, when you talk about the whole Georgia thing, again, context matters. What is the context of the whole phone call? Well, he was basically asking for a recount. Okay, I need a recount, and this is how many votes I need in order to win, right? I'm only down by so much. Okay, it's only a little bit. We need a recount. That is the context of what he was asking for. He wasn't asking the Georgia Secretary of State to create votes, right? To create fake ballots, right? For Trump. That's not what he was doing. Okay. I mean, again, it's kind of, they're trying to take what Trump is saying out of context and try to make it seem like he's saying something that he's not saying. He did not ask them to cheat in the election on behalf of him. That's not what he asked. He asked them to recount. Okay, hey, I'm only down by a little bit. We need a recount. That's essentially what he was saying. But again, they're trying to make that a crime.
Ever to do was politically.
So again, I get his I get his opinion on it. I think it's reasonable to believe, that Trump was just asking for a recount, as I mentioned earlier. But again, what bothers me is that he is so confident. He's telling you that you're wrong. It's not correct that he was trying to do something, untoward or inappropriate. He's saying, no, that's not correct. What he was definitely doing was asking for a recount. And again, you guys might know more about it. It's not really picking on the specific situation. I'm just saying I see this a lot, in the political media, YouTube, everywhere, that people come out as if they know. And some things that I have looked into, it's like, how do you know? You're not telling me how you know. And that's what bothers me. Like, how do you know? How do you know that what you're saying is true? Because it seems like all the information that we have is very little, and we just basically believe the source that we choose to trust, and it's not based on anything more than that. I think a lot of times, and this may be different, but this guy is not telling me why he believes that. He said that you need to look at the context. And then he provided very little additional context other than the fact that Trump was down by very little amount and he wanted a recount, right? And I get that, but Trump could also be down by a small margin and want some addition, something that's inappropriate. He may want some fraudulent votes added to his to his count. Do you know what I mean? Like, both, just because he was down by just a little bit, that doesn't give me enough context to know, all right, I see now he was just asking for a recount, you know? Just that by itself. So I guess it just bothers me that people are throwing out their very strongly worded opinions, as far as I can tell. They state them as facts, but to me, they seem like opinions, right? Bill Maher, the same. He's just as guilty in a situation where he believes Trump was trying to commit voter fraud and asking for that. And he doesn't know, I'm sure, or there is more context than I'm aware of, but just based on what this video is sharing, no one is telling anybody, no one's sharing their proof or their evidence for why they believe the way they believe. And so I'm left here sitting, or I'm just thinking, I guess they just don't like Trump, or they do like Trump. And whichever way they go is what they're going to believe. And I think that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. We all do that. But what I don't like and what frustrates me and everything is they speak their opinion like it's a fact, and they don't hardly give any additional context or evidence to back it up. And and I think most people out there are probably similar to me in the sense that you're probably not just like researching political scandals and political, controversies all the time. You're probably just living your life. You read headlines, you see YouTube clips and things like that, and you end up sort of finding the people you think you can trust, and you try to just sort of align your beliefs with them, or at least you know their opinions hold more weight for you. And so when these guys come out here and they just start stating their opinions as facts without really giving you any evidence or any reasons to lean your opinion that direction, I find that to be extremely unhelpful. And I think the biggest problem in this country is not which president gets elected, or um, or if you're left or right or conservative or liberal. Like, that's not the biggest issue. The issue is that we have let our government, our elected officials, and the bureaucracy that's behind them, we have let them divide us. We have let them, and all these political pundits, I think, are extremely guilty of this. We have let them divide us. And basically now everyone in the media, whether you agree with their opinions or not, on the left and the right, I don't see anyone that's really trying to be open-minded or understanding. Everyone is trying to divide you and demonize the other way of thinking. And I think that most people, whether again left or right, you have reasons why you came to the conclusions you came to, right? Whatever your opinions are, whatever your policy opinions are, whatever president you like better, like there's reasons why you like them. And they may not be logical reasons. You may not be able to back them up with any type of evidence or anything exactly, but there's reasons. There's valid reasons. Um, and maybe it's an uneducated reason. Maybe you're wrong about some things, and if you had additional information, you might change your mind, or I might, right? But even with that being the case, there's valid reasons for coming to certain conclusions, even even if we disagree. So I think when you take away that basic level of respect, where you're basically saying, hey, this person who disagrees with me is either stupid or evil or disingenuous or has ulterior motives. And when you're talking about the people who hold those beliefs, not the politicians, I think the politicians, once you're a politician, you've put yourself up um, for criticism, harsh criticism. I mean that you have to be able to be criticized as a politician, right? But if we're talking about even them, I don't think we need to demonize exactly. But general people, just the voters, right? We need to respect people who come to different conclusions and be curious about it and understand it. It doesn't mean that we have to agree with them in the end, right? But if I can respect them as a person and I realize I can see the good in them and their good intentions, that's where we need to need to be to come together. And so it really bothers me when these guys who, and I'll probably criticize the left, pundits as well and news people, but um, I'm going to start out on the conservative side because that's the media I watch the most of. I lean that direction myself, and it bothers me when I see these guys doing it. Right? If you're like in a cable news channel, it's almost like, okay, fine, you kind of just assume that you know they're blasting whatever they're told to say anyways, and that's all they're going to say. They're sort of paid to be this, you know, put on this show. Basically, it's a reality TV, really, is what it's becoming. But the people on YouTube, the independent creators, and people like organizations like the Daily Wire, it's just disappointing. It's like I want to hold them to a better standard, to a higher standard, to say, hey, it's fine that you have your opinions, but at least admit, you know, that you could be wrong, or at least show us the evidence why you believe what you believe, and don't demonize the other side. Like, you can understand how people got there, right? And you don't have to call them stupid, right? You don't have to call them stupid. People may be ignorant, they may be misinformed, but you can still be sympathetic to that because we all are ignorant and misinformed on a variety of topics, right? So I think we need to have a little bit more understanding, compassion towards people that we disagree with, and I think we need to be curious about why they believe what they believe, and hopefully, they can return that curiosity. And I think being curious and respectful towards each other, and just starting out with a base level of respect, and not assuming that because they believe a certain thing they're either stupid or evil, that's not going to get us anywhere. And if we keep letting the pundits and the news people and the politicians divide us so that we can't even look our fellow Americans in the eye and be respectful and have, a normal relationship with them and conversation with them, even though we disagree politically, you know, that is the biggest problem. That's where we're going to fall apart as a country. If we can stay united, at least in the sense that we're Americans and have mutual respect for each other, then we can actually make some progress, and we can probably get rid of some of this corruption and these politicians that want us divided to distract us from whatever schemes they have going on. Because if there's a group I don't trust, it's definitely the news media, the politicians, and quickly finding it very tough to find any independent content creators that seem to be helpful in any way either. They all seem to be dividing. So I would rather unify.